So I came to your talk on critical thinking, and I thought it was great. Can you tell me something about your thinking on critical thinking?
Well, I think perhaps my starting point was we do hear a lot about critical thinking these days. People are talking about it, people are doing talks, workshops about it, and it's becoming an issue in, for example, university entrance, where my background is some of my students are having to do a critical thinking test to get into their target universities, better universities. It started with Oxbridge, but it's other universities now, for example, where I work, UCL. And it begs the question, what is it? How can we teach it? There's various strands. There's the sort of pure critical thinking, which is independent of, say, reading. It's a sort of micro amount of text or context, and one's asked to look for the flaw, the support, the weakness, or the best conclusion, or whatever. That's sort of the fairly almost Aristotelian end of critical thinking, which is high value and prestigious, and everyone can have a good go at it, but it does benefit from coaching. You might want to have some lessons in it at a good school. So it does benefit those cultures where people have had it through their schooling, which it comes quite naturally in certain types of schools and educational institutions. It certainly needs activating and awakening in others, perhaps in any culture where it's just not really nurtured or fostered. So it needs bringing out. It's not that it doesn't exist, it just needs bringing out. And to go right back, Confucius, if you look at his writing, was a critical thinker. He looked for patterns and inferences in life. He wasn't imposing an orthodoxy. That may have happened, but he was a critical thinker. My other view is that no one owns critical thinking. I'm quite entitled to own it as much as absolutely anybody else in the whole world who's ever lived, and that's my right. It's not that I can say it's a pile of bananas, because that's absurd. If I say it's a pile of bananas, people will laugh, and quite rightly so. But what I have done, I've taken it, I've internalised it, I've personalised it, I've done the things that it often is said to do, such as synthesize and evaluate and look for reasoning, look for patterns, look for analysis, that sort of thing. And I've played around with it, I've rolled up my sleeves and mulched around in it. And what I've done on my level that I'm at, which is an EAP teacher, is come up with a little definition and, more to the point, come up with a message. We've all got it, my students have got it, to whatever degrees, to whatever measurable degrees. They see it as scary, potentially. It's a scary label. It has mystique. It needs demystifying. And what we do is start with something very simple to do that. We have an image is always a very good starting point. And I've done that in my teaching. Perhaps an image with a little bit of text, or perhaps a bit of text, or perhaps a little extract from a letter or an article or a textbook. Nothing too unwieldy or too challenging linguistically, but something accessible, pretty quick, that we can respond to in quite an unkeyable, that's the word I like, an unkeyable way. We can make our own responses, and my students' responses from one day to the next, based on that little piece of evidence, that prompt, will be unpredictable, and I won't be able to key them all in advance, which is what I like. Other aspects might be keyable, so what's the main point in this text, the main argument? That's keyable. It is A, not B. That's a slightly different thing.